Hello and welcome to the Spark of Ages podcast, where we're going to talk to founders, innovators, CEOs, investors, designers, and artists. I'm talking game changers about their big world-shaping ideas and what sparked them. I'm your host, Rajiv Parikh. I'm the CEO and founder of Position Squared, an incredible growth marketing company based in Palo Alto.
It is incredible.
Damn right it is. But I'm also a business news junkie and a history nerd. I'm fascinated by how big world-changing movements go from the spark of an idea to an innovation that reshapes our lives. In every episode, and especially this one, we're going to go do a deep dive with our guest about what led them to their own eureka moments, how they're going about executing it, and perhaps most importantly, how they get other people to believe in them so that their idea can also someday become a spark for the ages. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate it and comment. Your feedback is what drives our show, so take the 30 seconds and say hello. This is the Spark of Ages podcast. In addition to myself, we have our producer and today co-host, Sandeep, who will occasionally chime in to make sure we don't get too in the weeds with tech jargon.
That's not a problem for this episode coming up. We have my good friend Milana Vayntrub on this. So yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I'm excited.
So let's get into our conversation with Milana Vayntrub. Our guest today is director, actor, and improviser Milana Vayntrub. Milana's story is a narrative of resilience and determination. As a refugee who faced religious persecution, she has a deep understanding of overcoming adversity and breaking barriers. Her journey from Uzbekistan to a working director and performer in Hollywood is a testament to her talent and her versatility as an artist. As an actor, she appeared on shows like Silicon Valley, This Is Us, and Love. You may, however, know her best as Lily Adams, the principal spokesperson of AT&T's U.S. marketing campaigns from 2013 to 2016 and 2020 to 2023. After appearing in way too many ads for AT&T, Milana took over directing the ads herself, in addition to directing campaigns for companies like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Voya Financial, and Cracker Barrel Cheese. Most recently, she completed a short film called Pickled Herring, based on her relationship with her old world Soviet dad. Milana, welcome to Spark of Ages.
This is very nice. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. So one of the interesting things that we get to talk about today is a creative force in Milana, which is a lot of the people I bring on the show tend to be more on the pure entrepreneurial side or starting a business, but Milana's a real artist. And frankly, that's what I do at Position Squared. What we do in our company is we drive growth marketing for businesses. So we take our creative capability and turn that into ads and media that we place and the infrastructure behind it. So this is really super fun. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with the basics, Milana. First of all, as a director, how do you evaluate what you want to work on? When you weigh your choices, is it based on brand, the creative brief? What gets you into it other than that you're going to get a good check?
Yeah, the check is pretty much the same almost all around. I mean, the check doesn't vary enough for that to be a deciding factor. Yes, the first veto would be, am I morally aligned with this? If this is for ExxonMobil, it's probably a pass for me. Yeah. There are certain brands that I'm more excited to work with than others. And if it aligns morally, then that's the first check. And I think the production company I work with knows me and has similarly aligned morals, that we just don't take on certain projects. So there's that. The second is it funny? Because really my thing is just comedy. And so if it's already funny and if I think I can make it funnier, if I believe I will be a value add, and is it going to be fun to make? Like, are the people I'm working with lovely? Are they all sticks in the mud? Usually it could go either way.
Are many of them truly sticks in the mud? Is that a thing?
No, I think they're just with collaborating with people. Some people are more attached to their vision and some people are more down to collaborate. And honestly, it's worth it for me to learn how to work with all sorts of different people. And I'm down for it. So it can still be fun most of the time because I actually really enjoy being on a crew and I like learning about the marketing elements of different brands. That's one of the gifts in terms of thinking about marketing as a director of campaigns is that you get to dabble in like how does what's Tide's whole model versus what's Downey's whole model?
Mm-hmm.
What's McDonald's going for that Pepsi would never do, and what's Pepsi doing that McDonald's would poo poo? So you really get to learn the ins, the jargon that people use, and everyone takes what they do very seriously in this business, which I think, for better or worse, we're probably all digging ourselves early graves, but it's what makes it so fun to collaborate with people is that they really care about the final product.
I like your point about how different companies see themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons I got into marketing and why I'm still at it for 20 plus years is because I love figuring out what gets people to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that magical moment where you take someone from potentially being skeptical
Mm-hmm.
to their brain flips into buying. And then you can even take them further into becoming an influencer and a promoter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're doing as a spokesperson, and then later on working with actors as a director. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. And I think sometimes the most we can do in an ad is make people feel good about the brand. I think we'd put in a lot of energy and effort into transferring information and making sure people remember the deal or the way these special bubbles work in this kind of soap or whatever. But actually, the best we could hope for is people saying, "Oh, that made me feel good. I kind of like that place. I don't know why. I just kind of like that place." And then when they're at the store, they feel an affinity towards that and they move. I think that's the best we're hoping for in terms of TV ads. And if there's a bit of new
Because you only
information,
have 30 seconds, right? I mean,
you really
you
have
don't have
like
that much time to
22
get inside their
seconds.
brain.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have like 22 seconds if you're going to have an end card with the brand. And so the
Right.
goal is, can you make it memorable and can you make it likable? And I often remember the quote that people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. And that's all I'm trying to do, is just trying to make people feel good.
And I think mixed in all that, right, is like you also can't make them feel like they're being sold to, because that's like a turnoff. It's like a magic trick. You got to do all this stuff without making them feel like, hey, I'm trying to get your money.
Yeah, and I think that that's almost part of like the moral question that I brought up at the beginning is like, is this something I would feel okay recommending to a friend? I would feel fine recommending any iPhone to a friend or any Samsung phone, Galaxy whatever, S whatever to any friend. So like that doesn't feel like I'm like tricking anybody into anything. It feels aligned. I'm like, yeah, you should check this out. If this is what you're interested in, feel good about it, check it out. So yeah, those are always fun for me.
Authenticity and
Right. If they met you
Yeah,
on
and
the
the
street
intention.
and you talk to them, would you be willing to promote it? Also, talk about some of that creative process when you're on set. You hit it from two dimensions, right? First, at least for AT&T, you were doing this as the spokesperson or as the actor, and then later on, you were doing it as the actor and the director. So how do you run that creative process?
It's just practice. I think I started my career making stuff for myself and for my friends, and then I would edit it myself and with friends. And so it feels very natural for me to direct myself. First things first with any project is a good script. And so the way I still try to start things when I am even just acting in them is, can we make sure the script is as strong as it can possibly be? And sometimes that script needs a lot of work and sometimes it's perfect, and from there everything else flows or doesn't. um, so it all starts with text is Rex, as my 8th grade English teacher used to say.
Text is Rex.
Text is Rex. Yeah, text is king. Like
Nice.
whatever, the copy matters. If it's funny in there, if you can sense the charm in there, I think casting can only do so much. And I think that's another thing that I've learned in auditions for dozens and dozens of commercials. I can tell that if for some reason when someone's reading it, you can't find somebody who makes it sound natural or charming or real, then it's probably the text. And that's what needs reworking. So if the text is there, I have no problem acting and directing myself. Sometimes I can be in my body and like let the creativity flow, and then I can also turn that off and be outside of my body and watching all of the many factors. Also, the good news about commercials, which is very different than TV, is that there's a lot of playback in commercials, meaning we'll film it and then we'll all play it back and we'll all talk about it ad nauseum,
Yeah.
and then we'll go back and do it again. So I get to watch myself, and it's all
Keep
good.
honing it as you go, right?
For
And
sure.
I mean, one of the fun things about being on set with Sandeep was he would have them do their multiple takes, and then he'd say, "Okay, now go improv this one." Do you
Yeah.
do something similar?
For sure. We do that pretty much after like 2 takes. And a
Nice.
lot of the gold comes from that. And we'll have somebody, the script supervisor, who's often sitting right next to the director, will be writing down every single version so that when the camera moves, we can get it in different angles. But it's always so fun to hire actors who are improvisers and writers. I mean, it's like such an added bonus. Every improviser should get a writer's fee. It's such a special skill.
For real. Another way to ask it would be like, what role does failure play in your creative journey? Like, do you
I don't
'cause, like,
experience failure. I haven't had any. Keep going.
you never had
Never
any?
happened.
Never
Okay,
happened.
yeah.
Don't know what that is.
Practically perfect in every way.
Right, like our audience, like the audience of this podcast is mostly wanting to start their own or spark their own sort of entrepreneurial journey. And I think one of the things that going through the rigors of Hollywood does not, I mean, I want to say make us immune to failure, but it certainly
No, it toughens
battle
us up.
tests us, right?
Yes.
Toughens us up.
Yes.
So I wonder if you could speak to that, because you didn't just come out landing this huge AT&T contract, and you know, like you had to go through some stuff to get there. So maybe just speak to that journey a little bit.
Well, I think what the failure does is make you appreciate the wins. I am in so much gratitude when I am working, and particularly when I'm working with people I love. So when I feel like I'm making something good, something that is a value add to people's lives, or when I can just, if I can make the person holding the boom mic laugh, I'm like, that's a value add. And I remember, years and years and years ago, I was making like a silly video for Funny or Die, and I was complaining about something. And Johnny Pemberton, who's also a really funny comedic actor, I was complaining about something, and he said, "Don't forget, there's nowhere else you'd rather be. If you weren't here, you would wish you were here." And I think about that all the time, whenever I'm complaining. And then one time I worked with another super established actor, and I was directing him, and he had to do the same line 50 times and step back and do it again and land on his mark in a certain way and do this really what could have been perceived as an annoying thing to do. And I am like, it was Danny Trejo. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Trejo. Can you do it again? Can you do it again?" He goes, "Oh, don't apologize. We're not pouring cement." And I loved that attitude, and I really try to have cement.
Cement.
But he said cement, and that's why it was funny. But I loved it.
Did a double take.
We're not pouring cement all over ourselves. Calm down, lady. You ever been to war? You ever been to
I could do this
jail?
again.
I
Oh
think
yeah, he talks about it like his jail, his experience in jail and stuff, right? Like that's like he's like,
I'm
"I'm
sure
not in
that'll make
jail,
you,
so."
grateful for stepping on a mark 50 times in a row.
Yeah.
So yes, I think the failure makes me appreciate the wins. And then I think, once you get a taste of something really working, you know when it's not. When you're in an environment where you're like, this got shit show vibes. I don't know what it is about this, but this does not feel like smooth sailing. So I think it sharpens your intuition in that way. And again, when you get a taste of something that's really good, you want to get back there. So the work ethic is different. I'm
Do you
excited to
reframe
do
the
it again.
failures like after going through so many auditions, you're not going just by virtue of the process and how the pigeonhole principle, like how it just works. There's only gonna be one actor for the thousands that are coming in, and there's going to be a lot of people that are highly qualified. Do you do something to reframe the concept of failure?
Because I've been in so many casting rooms on the other side as the director, I really know that sometimes it just doesn't have that much to do with the actor. Sometimes we're casting a certain ethnicity or a certain height or whatever, somebody who could just say this line in some other way, somebody who improvised something and that improv was so good we gotta there's so many factors, and they're not always about me, and that makes me feel better as an auditioning person. Yeah, and then I think also, I'm sorry to do this on a business podcast, but also from a spiritual perspective, I'm like, the universe has my back, and things are gonna work out in the way that they're supposed to work out, and I'll be okay.
Business people do have
Souls?
spirituality.
Do they?
Do they?
We do. We
You do?
sometimes we believe that the universe is behind our backs in selling this wonderful technology widget. So you talked about how you love working with people in a collaborative environment. So how do you think about how you would manage that team? Is there a framework you have to handle creative disagreements within your team?
I try to make everyone feel heard, which is maybe obvious, but sometimes, in some environments, you're like, okay, if you really insist that this is the way it has to go, let's try it that way, and then you will see that you're wrong. So, that's
Give them a
possible.
shot, right?
And then
Give them a shot.
and then I'm also open to being wrong. That's also incredibly possible, that the vision that I have for something is not right. I mean, that's part of being a great collaborator, is that it's like the best idea wins, and I'm fine with it not being mine. That's kind of a one perspective of running a team. And then the other, again, is to remember that everyone is human, and everyone has a mom that they're thinking about, or a kid that they're thinking about, or like figuring out how they're going to pay their rent. And so I try not to operate in too much of a hierarchy.
Right.
Even when I'm
See them
directing,
as humans. Yeah. See them all as humans.
yes, even when I'm directing, even though, there's literally on call sheets, people are listed in hierarchical fashion, I still believe that the best idea wins. And sometimes everyone can bring an idea and I make the final decision. But I very much hope that no one is not saying something because of a belief in a hierarchy. I really encourage genuine collaboration, because I also think that some people know better than me. Can you believe it? I know it's crazy to say.
It happens.
Some people know how to do other things better than I know how to do all things.
So as a director, you're working with all these corporate brands in advertising. And so you're taking emotions, the atmosphere, the brand, you're creating compelling visuals, you're working on the sound, the motion, and each job requires a unique approach for each brand. So now, how would you think about that challenge? Where do you start with these brands? Do you go and play with them? Do you create mood boards? Do you get immersed in the material? Does the team send you things? How do you think about all this?
So often I will get a script that will have a little bit of a mood board attached, or will give me a sense of what they're thinking. And I will go through and look at their previous work, at least their previous recent work, and see how they want this to be similar or different. And yeah, brands have tones, and just by absorbing that work, you can kind of intuit. You can say, oh, this brand is okay, kind of pushing this line of being raunchy. This brand is really conservative. This brand is really family oriented. This brand is really about having an absurd kind of comedy. And that informs my writing when I'm writing my treatment or my pitch of how I'm going to handle it. Some of the best advice I got early on is, don't try to write it to sound like anything other than what you sound like.
Yeah, that really helps. I mean, we've worked with the brand and then the director, or brand and then the firm that brings in the director. A lot of this is we're trying to hone from the client what story they're trying to tell.
Yes.
And many times we go through, even before we get to the point of hiring the team that puts together the ad itself, or the commercial, or the short video series, we go back sometimes for months and trying to hone the theme down, and even get the 3 or 4 words that the campaign's about down. It goes through many iterations. And so then it comes to the director, and then the director's special because the director's actually putting it all together, working with the team, creating the visuals, creating the story. The director wants to bring his or her own artistic impression in. And then the client has a certain point of view, and we're trying to represent the intersection for both because we want the campaign to succeed.
Mhm.
So that's where you're talking about your artistic freedom. Like you're trying to bring some of your artistic freedom and bring that voice to it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to respect in that work that was done before I even see anything. There has been so much tweaking and sculpting before I see it to make it something that to me is like, oh, this is so easily digestible. Whereas there have been 50 iterations of it before it got to be so. And that's part of being able to interpret it as a director is I see this, I see what you want, and here, let me blow up these 3 words to be a whole world.
Yeah, one of the ones that we did was for a large computer company, and they were trying to talk about how technology enables you to be not just more productive, but express yourself and do the things you love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through months and months of iteration. It originally was just supposed to be like a Shutterstock stock set of videos that we put together with no acting at all, no director, nothing. And over time, it morphed with them till it actually became something that we needed to hire a firm, cast, find the right director. And I'll tell you, the amazing part about it was that at first we were going to hire actors to speak according to our script. In the end, the director found great businesses where they basically cast the owner of the business, and they literally blew us away. So sometimes, there are times where you come in with certain expectations, and then the person that you work with just blows you away with something going way beyond than you originally thought. And it's a great thing when that happens.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Milana, can you take us through like a time where you had a different vision on something, or a time where you took like kind of a bolder creative risk because you really saw something that maybe wasn't in those initial documents or anything? The audience would like to kind of like get behind the sausage making there. Like how do you tackle those moments?
I think again it goes back to the collaboration where they give me a script, and the first job that everyone has is to make it the best text possible. And so improv can do that a lot where I take something and then I'm like, well, we'll just see what comes out in the moment. We'll see if when I'm saying it, it feels good saying it. Because that's, again, there is some kind of intuition. And I think it comes with practice of doing improv for a decade now, where I can say, that sounds fake coming out of my mouth. How can we make that sound more human? And this isn't, I do this on spots that I'm not acting in, where I will walk through it as the person performing it and say, like, does this feel like a good thing to say? Does this feel helpful and kind and warm and all the things, and ultimately have the goal of being funny? But yeah, I think I push back a lot on the AT&T sets because that's just the creative relationship is like I push and someone else pushes and someone else pushes, and it doesn't ever feel aggressive. I hope it always just feels like we all have a hand in making this the best it can be. And because it was specifically my face saying it, I felt a lot of responsibility in it being the best it could be.
That's awesome. That sounds like it must be an incredible process. And you guys did so many commercials and campaigns. I doubt they first, I bet you they must have had a certain run for you. And then they saw what happened and then they extended it. They extended and extended it. Let's talk about entertainment and the ad industry.
Okay.
Right. There's a ton of disruption in both areas. There's a bit of consolidation occurring. I mean, a lot of times when you're streaming, you're not really watching ads, although the streamers are trying to re-release the shows, but give it to you for lower cost in exchange for showing more ads. Right? They're giving the option to come in and out.
Netflix is talking about adding ads and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, because brands,
Amazon has
in the end,
Freevee.
brands still want to come out. Yeah, they have Freevee, or nowadays they charge you an
Fast
extra
channels.
$3 not to see the ad. Right? Before it used to all come without ads. Or last night when I was watching a show on Peacock, they give me the minute ad, kind of like Hulu-ish. What do you think about this consolidation and the way it's coming together? There's different forms of entertainment. There's the whole streaming movement. There's the Apple Vision Pro immersive experiences. How do you see these changing and coming together?
I mean, I think the coming together of tech and entertainment was really cool at the beginning, and then really disruptive, and now chaotic and detrimental and super damaging.
And look, I think it's an honest conversation to have, because like people are not going to not use these tools, right? Like they're not
Yeah.
going to just, especially in places where there isn't an established entertainment industry. They're like, this is going to allow folks in remote parts of the world to be able to
Make anything. Yeah.
create stuff, make
Sure.
anything. I mean, like, yeah, you go on Instagram and you just have a filter that gives you makeup essentially. Like,
Mhm.
what are folks to do? I'm kind of playing the other side of it, devil's advocating a little bit, like when the competition in the marketplace is going to be making utilization of these tools, and yeah, you're in a position to be like, yeah, well, I'm not going to, because I think that's moralistically not helpful to my community. But how do you evaluate folks that are just trying to compete and survive and utilizing these tools to keep them competitive in the marketplace?
Sorry to be a broken record, but I think I go back to the best work is made through collaboration. And if you're not collaborating, then you are playing God in a way and saying you and this computer know better than the other 6 people you could have hired who have access to the infinite as well, which is their imagination. I would much rather have a meeting with makeup artists, for example, special effects artists who can bring their ideas and expertise than to just paste it on later with AI. Again, I understand the industry is changing. It's always going to be changing. I am not expecting it to slow down at any pace. I know it's exponentially going to change. Singularity is happening in our industry too. But I am also grieving the loss of work for my friends and holding on to this idea that I think human creativity has a lot to offer. The other thing I will say is that a lot of AI work, writing and art, is borrowed work from human skill.
That's right.
So who are we paying for that work that they are accessing? They're pulling from a wealth of knowledge that is not being credited.
I think that's one of the issues. The New York Times, right, sued OpenAI
Right.
because a lot of the training sets for OpenAI writing were trained on New York Times articles. And I'm sure that in the terms and conditions of the New York Times, it's meant for personal purposes. It's not meant for you to use it and build a business off of. And so they're suing it on that basis, right? That's a copyright violation, and there's not an economic system. Like there should be an economic system whereby if you use my content, there's a way for the original source creator to get paid. I know that in some of the tools that we use, like we use Adobe tools, right, for constructing images like Photoshop and some of their more later tools, they're taking on the liability of getting legal liability, but they've also created an economic system by which the creators get paid. So for the better advertisers, for the more brand name advertisers, more brand conscious advertisers, there's a path. I'm not saying it's a great path or a good path because I don't know the actual system in detail, but at least there should be a path where those who create content or are the source image should get paid.
It makes me think about what art looks like down the line. And can
really a big question.
first of all, I will say that if I see a piece of art, and this is just personal, no offense to AI artists, whatever you are, if you even want to call yourself that, like when I see a piece of art that is made by a human, even if it's made by a human in Photoshop, which I think is also a legitimate form of art, I feel differently about it than when I know it's an AI piece of art. When I see models constructed in AI, faces constructed in AI, actors that are not human, I can sense the lack of heart in it. And I do not put it past the robots to figure out how to trick us into thinking that there's humanity
that's
behind their eyes.
the
Like
Turing test.
that's what's
Yeah.
going to happen. But right now, it's just not working for me.
Yeah, right now. I think it's the
Right
question
now.
is that when they
I know,
come
and that's
side
the
by
fear.
side, will it always be doing that? Yeah.
That's the fear, is what is it going to do to art down the line? And writing.
That's a hot topic for your next podcast. And maybe
Yes.
even more mine. Because I think it's a super hot
talking
topic
about it now.
all the way. No, it is a hot topic. And it's actually really interesting to talk about what technology can do. And we're playing a lot with AI, and we definitely see the productivity benefits, but we also see the potential issues in it.
Yeah.
And so it's legitimate.
Yeah.
But I want to take you back Milana, to what got you into the entertainment industry? What got you down the path?
I'm a fool, and I figured out a way to make money off of it.
You could be a clown and you can play.
Yeah. I was I don't know, my mom like saw that in me really young and put me into acting classes, and that's how it all happened. She you want me to keep going on it cuz I can give you more specifics.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was
Yeah.
like 5,
What was your first commercial?
I think my first commercial was for MCI, which ironically was maybe bought by AT&T.
Was
So maybe my
bought,
first
I
and
don't
last commercial.
MCI. Oh my
Do you remember
gosh.
that?
That is
MCI.
bringing me back. Yeah, I do.
MCI, then it
Yeah.
was WorldCom.
It was my
and then-
first and my last commercial were both phone commercials.
Wow.
And
Oh, your last, eh?
well, I mean, I don't think after AT&T I'm going to be acting in any more commercials, but we'll see.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we'll
I
see.
don't know.
So you got in, your mom saw this talent in you.
Yeah, she put me in acting
You
classes. She put me in
you
beauty
lived in
pageants.
Hollywood, or you lived in Beverly Hills.
My family
Where'd you
immigrated
live?
to West Hollywood,
West
corner of
Hollywood.
Santa Monica and Fairfax. And so, started taking acting classes and gymnastics and all sorts of things that are going to make me a good little obedient clown. And then I, auditioned for things, got an agent, got a manager, or maybe just an agent at the time.
When was it your call? Because when I'm 4 and 5, I'm not making.
I loved it.
Now
I loved it.
You're a mom now.
Yeah, couldn't wait.
Sure.
So
you loved it,
excited to
but-
go on
okay.
auditions. So excited to get a call back. So excited to be on set. My mom couldn't calm me down when we were on set. I was bouncing off the walls. So from day
you loved
one,
showing out. You loved being that show person. You loved being in the limelight.
Playing. I love a set. I mean, if you have not been on a set, Rajiv, I know you have, but like, if for the listeners, the experience of being on a set is, it for me it feels like a great dessert after a great meal. It's like so energizing. Everyone there, and again, maybe not everyone, but just go with me on these exaggerations, will you? But like, everyone there is in their element. They're doing something they love. They're taking it really seriously, and yet there is an element of playfulness. Everyone there is a team player. They're used to either working with the same group of people for as long as the show has been on the air, or if it's a commercial, they're bouncing around from crew to crew. So like, the shitty people don't get to work for that long, and there's a ton of snacks. There's snacks everywhere. So it's, for a kid especially, and I was treated so well, I loved as a little girl sitting down in hair and makeup and trying on different outfits, and then sitting under the lights and having people look at me like it was my calling from day one. But
And you
even
had no
now, when I'm on a
fear,
set, no, I still
no
don't
fear.
really.
You didn't have like that hesitancy. Oh, am I going to look stupid, or am I going to make a mistake? And I just think it's amazing that you can memorize lines. I'm terrible at it. So I'm
It's
just
4 and
amazed.
5. You're not even. You're not aware yet. You're not self-aware in that way yet, though.
I remember times where I did get nervous, if I felt like the stakes were high, but often I really loved it. And then I would go to I'd go to auditions frequently enough that I got to see I made friends at them. It was just like an after school activity, especially when I was younger, just like anything is for kids.
And is that how your mom kind of treated it? Like, how did your mom deal with the stakes of it? Because I'm sure part of it is like, hey, look, this is going to support the family if you book this gig, right?
No,
like,
no. My
did you
mom
ever
never
feel any of
took
that?
any. No, my mom never took any of the money. Never, ever, ever, not once. All of that money was used for my college account.
Wow.
She would do all of that for fun and for free, and I didn't see any of that money until I started college.
It's true labor of love, right?
Yeah.
Mom taking you
That's
to
great. I
all
mean,
these auditions and taking you out there. It's just an amazing.
And then I graduated without any college debt because of
So
work that I did when I was a kid.
I have here in your background that you went to high school, but then you left high school.
Yeah, I dropped out after 10th grade. Well, dropped out. I mean, I took a test and I went to community college, which was really great for me because I got to take philosophy and political science and psychology and kind of figure out who I am and what matters to me. And for years, I didn't take theater or even think that was going to be my path. I was really hoping for it to be something more practical, like philosophy. No. And then and then when I transferred to a university, which again, because like the universe works in mysterious ways, I ended up totally by accident going to a school with one of the top 3 grad programs for theater in the country, which was UCSD.
Amazing.
And I went there only because it was the closest school I got into and was close to the beach. And because I was bored and sad and depressed, was like, I have to do something creative or I might die. And I auditioned for a play, and that's how I made all my friends. And then we would constantly put on our own shows, and we were all writing and acting and directing in each other's shows. And then after college, I knew that this was my path and didn't like the idea of asking for permission to do all of those things because I'd just been doing them without permission, and it was the light of my life. So that's why I started a YouTube channel, and
Nice.
that was my ticket. And then I also worked for Sandeep.
Who's your first guest? Who's your first guest?
I think it was Sandeep Parikh.
But actually, I heard of that guy.
I know that guy.
Sandeep was actually like a huge influence for me early on because he was making Legend of Neil.
Go on.
And and I was his intern. Free labor, by the way, which should be illegal. Sending out T-shirts and
we had no money. You think Comedy Central was paying us?
Yeah, I was like,
anything to pay anybody?
I was designing posters and filling out forms for actors and doing all sorts of bullshit office work for him. But I did find being around
asked me to...
Oh yes, and I was so grateful to, because really being in the creative environment was really the inspiration I needed to go and do my own thing.
So you created your own videos. You got a chance to work with this person named Sandeep. You created these videos. You basically decided you're going to take it on yourself to highlight who you are and do your own creative production. And then that then led to more theater and then advertising?
Oh, good question. So we made this web series called Let's Talk About Something More Interesting. That was kind of my little film school. Just worked with friends who taught me how to do things. And shout out Sammy Cohen, Adam Catino. And then we ended up selling that show as a pilot to MTV. And that show also got me representation. So it got me an agent and a manager. And that is how I got my commercial auditions. So for the AT&T job, it was just another commercial, one of the 100 commercial auditions I went on that year.
So sometimes people see commercial work as a way of getting paid to do, that gives them the opportunity to do the creative work that they really love to do. Or some people see it as an art form in and of itself.
I think I saw it as both. I really enjoyed, again, I was an improviser, and I thought of commercial auditions as an opportunity to play and see my friends in the waiting room. And again, kind of like I do now, I feel like I understood the tone of this spot and what they wanted.
Yeah.
And went in pretending to be that.
But you weren't at 5 years old or 6 years old or 10 years old saying, I want to be in commercials.
I loved it.
Did you write that down? Like, this is my career arc. I have
no,
this
I think I just
plan.
said I wanted
or did
to
you,
be
did
an
you feel
actor.
like you kind of fell into it as time went on?
No, because I fell out of it for many years. It wasn't until college that I really decided. When I was like 12 to college, didn't really do anything. Had like maybe 1 or 2 jobs. But it was in college that I really figured out that I love it and that I might be good at it, but mostly that I really, really, really enjoy it. And it just fills me up. So then
That's
after
awesome.
college, I made the very brave decision, and it was a decision. It was a really hard decision of saying, I'm going to bet on myself, and I'm going to know that this impractical job is what I'm going to at least give a go at. I didn't know if it was going to be my career forever. And honestly, I'm still kind of open to it not being my career forever. But I'll do it for as long as they have me.
So, like, you come from an immigrant background.
Yeah.
Your parents were from Uzbekistan.
Yes.
A lot of immigrant families will say, no, like you must do the practical thing.
Yeah.
You must get yourself a normal job and get
Yeah.
paid a normal job, because what are you going to do for money? And
Yes.
this thing that I put you through when you were younger, that was just fun for you. Glad you were able to get somewhere. Did you get into a conversation with your mom? And
My mom was always for it. My mom was super, super, super for it because she wanted to be an actress when she was younger and was not allowed. So she was incredibly for it. My dad, my grandparents, everyone else thought it was crazy and would give me,
That's
with my dad, I had like a timeline. He was, I was like, give me a year, give me a year. But then also, like, this industry is so nebulous, it's hard to say, like, and now I've made it a year later. But it was kind of when I started paying my own bills, like, comfortably, that he was. And I honestly, I wasn't asking my parents for money ever in adulthood. So, so that was a big part of it.
So you went towards your mom's interest. Your interest was towards your mom.
Yeah.
It was against the practical family, but they seemed to accept it. They seemed to say, "Oh, you know what? She's that passionate. This is the way she is. We love
And
Milana.
what are they
She's
going
gonna
to
go
do?
for
Like,
it."
make me interview for another job? Like, I wasn't living at home. I wasn't.
It's not like the Indian parent where they try to bring girls or boys home. They say, "Here's a job. I have
Oh
this
no,
job
they
for. I
did
have this
bring
interview
boys
for.
home.
I have that interview for you. I have
In fact,
this."
my parents were more forceful about who I should marry than what job I should have, for sure. That's where their biggest intervention was.
Matchmaking.
Yes. Oh, marry this boy and you'll be happy forever. And I'm like, I don't like him.
Do you think did that come from a place of like wanting financial security for you?
Yes.
Being like, yeah, you can be an actor. And I do wonder if there's a gender thing to this, because I know there is for in my wife's family. Like, that's like, okay, well then if she's not going to get the job, then this is the other way that we can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that up, I think up until I was like 18, maybe 19.
A good doctor. Find
They
a
were
good
like,
doctor.
yeah, they wanted me to marry rich when I was like 18 or 19. But, it's that Cher quote. Cher said that her mom said, I want you to marry a rich man. And then Cher said, Mom, I am a rich man. And so I was just determined to become a rich man on my own.
And you did. You did really well.
Here I am. I'm a big old fat rich man.
Look at that mustache. I mean, it's just...
It's getting there.
I've seen you in a mustache. It looks pretty good. I've seen you
That's
for
true.
one of your shows in a mustache. When you went from actress to directing, how did that work? Did you propose it to them? Did they propose it to you? Did you pitch an idea?
So
Did you just hang out with Sandeep and he convinced you?
No. I can't think any
No, so when I was making this web series, I'd kind of learned to direct, and I would direct sketches and made a music video for my friend, made a documentary actually while Sandeep and I were living together. I made a documentary, and in that time I was acting in AT&T commercials. This was like, I want to say 2014 or 2015. And I showed this documentary that I made to a director that was directing the spots, and just as a way of asking for notes. So I was asking many people for notes, and he ended up sending that around his production company, and they ended up signing me as a director. Then that campaign ended. I want to say in like 2016 or something, that campaign ended, and Lily Adams was no more. Then in 2020, when the world was in shambles, Lily Adams resurfaced.
Yes.
Risen from the ashes.
They were desperate.
Yeah.
They were desperate for that.
The world
for that
needed her
amazing
again.
spokesperson with the glow and the energy and the vibe.
They needed the glow and the vibe, man. So me and my production company, Hungry Man, we're having a conversation about what we can do and what brands we have relationships with, and if there's anything we can come up with to make work happen at a time when there was no work happening. And we pitched to AT&T. I basically wrote up a few scripts and a treatment and cold called them and said, what if we bring this character back? And she's working from home just like everyone else is working from home. And about a month later, we heard back that this feels like it's moving up the ladder and people are kind of into this idea. Then it came back. We shot, I don't know, maybe 12 commercials in my house with just me and my husband, who is not a filmmaker and has only ever visited me on set twice, but is a really resourceful person. And we were, painting walls and decorating our space with the advice from production designers and full collaboration. Was everyone on a call sheet was still on the call sheet, but they were all virtual, and my husband and I were doing the actual labor, doing my own hair and makeup, set up 4 red cameras, hanging our own light, doing all the things. And it worked amazing. I mean, it worked well enough that when studios started opening back up, we were back in a studio and I continued directing. My husband had less work to do, and that was really annoying to him because he's really fell in love with playing every part. Yeah, and then that went on for years.
I love that story.
Part of the package deal was, hey, I gotta direct these myself, obviously, because
It was never an
it was
ultimatum.
never even a.
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
just transitioned and it stayed that way. And there have been other directors. There have been other really good and some really bad directors, and I learned from all of them.
That's great. So they took you in. They said, go ahead and as part of this. Let's do it your way. Be a director. You direct it, write it. Go ahead. And then at different times,
I didn't write them. So to be clear, the directors very rarely, I would say maybe 1% of the time, write the scripts.
Yeah.
The scripts are always thought up through an agency or a
Through an
firm or
agency.
so I was always given scripts, and then improv happened and collaboration happened, but I never wrote a script from scratch.
I love how you pitched it. That's great.
Thanks.
That's
Thanks.
like one of my favorite things.
All right.
Oh,
well, now
thanks.
it is time. Now that we've
Uh-oh.
dug into the spark of Milana, how she got into this industry, we've talked about AI. We kind of we really covered a lot of ground here. It's time to put you to the test in our spark tank. This is just a game. It's just a game.
Oh, okay. I can
Just
do
silly
a
game. Just change it.
I can do that.
Yeah, you can do
It's
games.
a game.
Okay.
So this is. I decided to invent a little new game for Spark of Ages here that I'm calling Spark Scale Sunset. And this
Spark
is
Scale
our
Sunset.
version of F, Marry, Kill, if you're familiar with that.
Spark Sale Sunset.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Scale.
Scale.
So which of these 3 things would you like spark, like, or a spark of creativity for you? Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like that's kind of the F, right? Which is already kind of working as is, and you would want to scale it. Like maybe, oh, I'd want to invest in that. And which, hey, I think this has seen its peak and it's cool, but now let's sunset it. Let's iterate. Do something new.
Got it.
Okay. Number 1, social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, X. It's kind of a gimme, I think. But let's see. Maybe you have a different opinion than I would, and both you guys can answer. Which one would you spark?
Honestly, I think I would sunset Instagram and X.
Okay.
They could both
really?
go.
Instagram. Okay.
I am so yucked by it. I'm deeply yucked by it. However, TikTok, spark and scale, baby. I love a TikTok.
Why is that? What is it about TikTok that, besides letting the Chinese spy on us, that you?
That's mostly it. That's mostly it.
Go.
Yeah.
Now, why TikTok? What's the?
I love a localized content creator. I also, speaking of marketing, like I find influencer marketing to be really interesting and really powerful. And it works on TikTok. I think part of the randomization, I'm using air quotes of the randomization, but the way the algorithm feeds you certain influencers, the incentive to remain authentic and yourself, weird, is there on TikTok. I feel like Instagram is more like performative, more final product, whereas TikTok shows you more of the process. And honestly, ask me in like 2 months and I'm sure I'm going to want to sunset it too, because it is hyper addictive. And if you are not on TikTok, don't do it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Is that where you
fair
are,
enough.
Rajiv?
I
What's your?
like Milana's opinions of it.
Yeah.
I would say I have been urged by the folks on this show to engage more with TikTok, so I will defer that. But it's highly addictive, and I don't want to be even more addicted than I am to all these other things that I do in
Mhm.
social media. Instagram, I'm leaning more towards sunset just because I think it's messed up a lot of young girls' lives. And
Mhm.
from the thing that the algorithm
Mhm.
encourages. And I think Facebook doesn't need that kind of money, and Meta doesn't need that kind of money, and I wish they would let it be useful without it being exploitative.
Yeah.
Yes.
X, I'm
I
going to be
wish
a
so
little
too.
controversial with X. I actually think it's better. It's actually pretty good. I don't get the hate stuff on the ones I follow. Now I don't follow a lot of people. I
Mm.
follow interesting people, and if I see something that I don't like, I quickly tell it I don't like it. And so I get interesting. So I might spark that. I say spark just because it comes up with things that I don't normally think of.
All right. We're moving on to directors. Milana, what would you spark, scale, or sunset? Greta Gerwig, Christopher Nolan, Jordan Peele.
Oh, can I scale them all?
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So
I would
Greta
scale them all.
Greta Gerwig, director of Barbie, just
Yeah.
to like catch people up.
And
Christopher
Lady
Nolan.
Bird, which I actually
Yes,
think
and
is better than Barbie.
no, Lady Bird's amazing. It's
Lady
incredible.
Bird is
But they're
amazing.
both amazing, I think,
Okay.
personally.
Yes.
Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer, amongst all, the Batmans and a million of
Brilliant.
other kind of
And
big high
Inception,
concept,
right?
big sci-fi movies. Inception,
Ooh.
Which I've
Interstellar,
seen 3 times in the movie
Tenet.
theater.
I love
I
Inception. Love me
was
in Inception.
yeah,
Makes sense.
love
I
me
mean,
and Nolan.
Jordan,
it's
and then
fantastic.
Jordan Peele, who
Yeah.
is director of Get Out, Us,
Nope.
all the single syllable movies. I hear you on wanting to scale everybody. Is there
Yeah.
anyone that even leans towards Spark or Sunset?
Absolutely not.
Fantastic. Here's what I'm going to do because I want to be controversial about it.
Oh my
I
God.
don't want to sunset Christopher Nolan. I just want to see the next iteration of him as an artist.
Oh, I will say that I
Do you see what I'm
wasn't
saying?
the biggest
Like,
Oppenheimer fan.
I wasn't the biggest Oppenheimer fan either. I dug it, but it was long.
But maybe we weren't the audience for it.
I think I'm the audience
performances
for
were
it.
a little
I think I'm
off.
very much the audience.
I would be
You
the audience for
love
it, and
an
I really
atomic
liked
bomb. Oh, you did.
No,
Okay, good.
I love
I'm a
biopics.
science geek, and I
Yeah.
so I loved learning about World War II. It's one of my favorite periods in history to learn about in terms of change and transformation and
It's
trouble.
one of my
that you can
favorite
cause.
genocides.
And I'd say, yeah, and Edwin Teller, actually, it helped me understand more about. He was the crazy guy who was portrayed as a little bit crazy, but promoted Star Wars. If you guys remember during the Reagan era, about putting weapons in space and using it to knock down missiles. And actually, that happens now. Missiles can be blocked and stopped. So it's a very interesting way of looking. Like he was portrayed a particular way, but some of his ideas actually.
I just love stories about, and Anand kind of, our producer on the show, and my business partner, he put such a great way, which is like stories that are about sort of exceptional people during crucial times making hard decisions are the ones that just endlessly fascinate and often get super green light. So like The Imitation Game and like just stuff about like I love stuff like that. So I feel like I am the person, the right person. I thought this one, I thought it was good, but I also I wasn't like in love with it. Like I'm really bummed that Greta didn't get a Best Director nom. I feel like that she should have gotten. I mean, what she did with Barbie was just so wholesale. Like
it was amazing what she did.
It was amazing. Never in my wildest did I think I would want to go see Barbie. Like if you talked to Sandeep 5 years ago and been like, you're gonna go see Barbie and you're gonna love it, I'd be like, come, I'm not gonna go see this like corporate, this like desperate cash grab movie. And she like flipped the whole,
she made it
perception of it.
deep,
and she made it
funny.
fun.
Yeah.
She made it fun. She made going back to the movies fun. I wore my fur jacket to it. It was so much fun to
You're
go.
a virgin.
I did.
Please let the picture of you wearing that be the icon for this podcast.
That is definitely going to be in the TikTok.
That's a whole different story of my transformation in my post-pandemic transformation. Anyways,
Let's lightning round this. The Geico Gekko, Flo from Progressive, and Jake from State Farm.
I would scale the Gekko.
Yeah.
I would
Tripling
spark
down on
Flo, and I would
love us, Steph and Courtney.
sunset Jake, just because I find that character to be the less interesting one.
I'm with you. I want Jake to take some chances. I think Jake, I believe
want
in that
Jake
actor.
to have like a good comedic moment.
I want him to take
to,
he's got to take some risks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jake's got to go a little crazy.
I find him
It's
annoying.
also, it's not Jake's fault. We all, as we've been talking about
Jake's
this,
fault.
this is
That's
a
right.
multi-tiered, right? It's the text is Rex. Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
But it doesn't get me to buy State. It doesn't get me to buy State Farm.
No, whereas
the
like
Gekko, the
the
Gekko gets
progressive
me to buy Geico. And
Yeah.
Flo definitely gets me more
has
interested.
done amazing things for that brand. Yeah,
Yes.
Or the Mayhem guy.
he's
I
fun.
like that guy.
Well, he's genius. I think.
But what brand is he?
Allstate.
Allstate.
Allstate. Last one. This podcast, The Spark of Ages, our podcast that we have from Milana, Your Mom is a Podcast, which is coming out soon on all places that podcasts. If you're interested in parenting, this
Really should
banter
have brought that
and
up earlier,
Miami.
but keep going.
Yep. This podcast, our podcast, or Tony Robbins' podcast.
Oh, I will sunset
'Cause
Tony
guess
Robbins'
what? I know
podcast.
that She loves Tony Robbins. Oh, okay.
Oh.
I love Tony Robbins, but I've never really been a huge fan of his podcast. I love his tapes. Some of his tapes have been transformational for me. And I will scale our podcast because I really believe in it. It's called Your Mom is a Podcast, where we interview interesting, inspiring, influential people and their moms to figure out how they got that way. It's a comedy parenting podcast, newlywed show style, gamified because
How
it's
many
Central
podcasts
Perique and
you
he has
hear?
to gamify everything.
You know,
Of course.
But how many podcasts do you get to hear a cool guest and their mom? I mean, come on.
That's awesome.
It's pretty
That's
cool.
unique.
And then I'd spark this one. This one's fun and inspiring. I'm so grateful to be on here.
Milana, if there's one thing you'd like to do in your next life and money's not an object or there's no other constraints, what would it be?
Rest.
Mom.
Spoken like a true mom.
I just want to have less things on my calendar and time off to cook, and maybe that's it. Maybe I would just like cook and take long walks.
Why don't we let you get to that?
Yeah, right. I got a kid waiting for me at home. I have 4 meetings after. I love you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
It's been great to have you on. You're an inspiration, and
You're an
so
inspiration.
look forward to getting your episode out and off to the world. I think
Thanks,
many
guys.
people will be inspired by you and excited by what you have to talk about.
You should have.
Thank you so much.
Okay. See you guys soon.
All right, that was a fun convo. I mean, listen, she's a sister from another mister for me, so I'm curious, as the brother from my actual mother, how are you feeling? What are your takeaways?
I just enjoyed the time with Milana. She has this amazing combination of personal happiness, personal glow, creativity, humor, and I just felt like that conversation we had about how she took all these different risks in her life, going into the acting world, how she flowed through life and found things as she went and had this sense that everything was going to work out. I just found that amazing. And I especially love how she came back and decided to pitch AT&T, but as a director, and the featured Lily Adams spokesperson. As you know, I love advertising and marketing. I like how businesses present themselves, and I could see that she thinks similarly from a highly creative point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So I have tremendous respect for that. that side of her.
Yeah, and I've known Milana for years, and I co-host this podcast with her. But what's cool about this interview for me and getting kind of your more outside perspective on her as a human, it reminded me of the value of being shamelessly yourself, like really knowing yourself. Like the thing that always strikes me about Milana, and I'm reminded by when I hear her story, is how much she sort of bet on herself. She was always like, you know what, hey, like high school's not working for me. I'm gonna just take the GED. I'm gonna move on. Gonna go to community college. Gonna do my thing there. She always takes that bet on herself in a way that I think is super brave, and it carried all the way through even into this AT&T job, where for folks who don't know her and only know her as Lily Adams, they can see here how very much she is Lily Adams. Her like spirit, her spark is in that character, and she was unapologetically herself in that role as well. And I think it's part of what made that campaign so successful and so resonant, is that she is just so likable. She made that character so likable, and she pushed the bounds creatively, stepped out of her place in a way as an actor to be like, hey, I want to have more creative say into these things, pushed into being a director, and made the campaign successful yet again, a second time around. So it's like, if you can find a way to really know yourself, really be unapologetically yourself, you'll go really far. Yeah, what do you guys think, audience at home? Do you enjoy this game? Do you like other games? Let us know in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling about stuff. We want to evolve and shape the show. So let's hear it. Let's hear it in the comments.
That's right. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts can be found. Put those comments in. Show your love. If you know me, text me or email me. I love hearing your opinions.
That's great. Yeah. All right. Well, that's the show. This show is produced by Sandeep Parikh and Anand Shah, production assistance by Taryn Talley and Jesse Deep, and edited by Sean Marr and Aidan McGarvey.
I'm your host, Rajiv Parikh from Position Squared, an awesome growth marketing company based in Silicon Valley. Come visit us at position2.com.
This has been an Effin' Funny production.
We'll catch you next time, and remember, folks, be ever curious.